Bosses in video games have become more and more of a niche part of the medium. Your title either suits them or it doesn't. Though that shouldn't brush over the fact that even to this day, bosses can crop up anywhere, even in games they aren't welcome or appropriate. Big tanking giants, small fiddly witches, incensed agile monkeys that run around flinging their shit at you because you try to steal their flowers. There's plenty of variety. Some bosses can also have a pretty deceiving nature too, appearing easy from outside the arena, perhaps moving slow, showing a predictable moveset, or coming early on in the game. These are the bosses we didn't think twice about. Maybe we should, though. What good is it to laugh at the boss that takes 3 hits to die if we proceed to fall off the cliff we're fighting on? Or worse, we enraged them as a result of our continued laughter and died in 1 hit. So whether you misattempted that jump, fell to your death, or forgot about the special ability, these are all the bosses you'll never admit to losing to. I am Kirsten from WhatCulture, and these are 10 video game bosses that you'll never admit to losing to. Number 10. BANJO-TOOIE, Old King Cole. A giant lump of coal. That's one of the bosses Banjo and Kazooie do battle with. A lump of coal who fittingly takes refuge in a cave with fire everywhere. It's hot, it's toasty, it actually sounds quite a dangerous place for a bird and bear to be lurking, especially with King Cole wandering around. Except that's all he does. He'll have a wander, bump into things, roam around the arena with lava along the floor, not really posing much of a threat. You wouldn't think it'd be an issue, but more often than not, the player can lose their footing between the platforms floating across this lava, to take a nasty spill. Distance is key, but in a room full of magma and all the animation options open to you, the pressure is high. On top of that, if King Cole does happen to take interest when you're too close, you'll be juggling eggs, coal, lava, and floating platforms to boot. Number 9. Batman Arkham Asylum, Killer Croc. Okay, hear me out here. Killer Croc in the Arkham Asylum games does not look like an easy matchup, especially considering he's teased throughout the game. From the very beginning, as he goes down that elevator, taunting Batman, claiming he'll eat his bones, the player is likely terrified about having to eventually face him. I know I was. Except when you actually get down to it, deep and dirty in the sewers, walking along the makeshift boardwalk, you realise there's nothing to it. The scariest part about the boss fight with Killer Croc is the atmosphere, the tension that ensues as you wait for him to emerge. When he actually does show up, though, you just throw a batarang at him. I'm not exaggerating, that's all you have to do. For all of his talk, his disgusting homestead beneath the asylum, and the build-up, he's really just a big, scaly puppy afraid of boomerangs. Build-up is the key phrase here. Croc is built up to be a monstrous threat, even down to the very last moments as he chases you through your escape. Yet there's no combat, there's no health bar, the fight is nothing more than a glorified cutscene. Mistime a batarang or your final explosive though, and he will eat your bones. Number 8. Super Mario Bros. Bowser. It should be so simple. A sprint jump, a bridge, and an axe. Not too difficult, not too much to handle, but timing is of dire importance. Bowser's boss fights come in many shapes and sizes dependent on what game, console, or generation you're fighting him in. And in the original 2D form, all you needed to do was get one jump right. You've gotten through the world, reached the castle, dodged the flames and the lava alike, and finally face Bowser, who is, of course, holding Princess Peach. Everyone knows the drill. He jumps, waddles back and forth, and shoots fire. But the question of over or under, patience or speed, is what haunts us about Bowser. Even if we tell you take your time, wait for his fireballs, sprint, jump, and grab that axe, it's no use. Everyone knows the strategy, but it's pulling it off that always gets us in. Then, in all these newfangled super duper Mario games, they add in extra platforms, different abilities, and turn Bowser into a giant robot or something really weird. It's anything but simple. Number 7. Halo 3, Guilty Spark. Platformers, side-scrollers, and retro games aside, here is a character from yesteryear that has the chatting capacity of a housewife and the bumbling nature of a bee. Some might argue he posed more of a threat in the original Halo, Combat Evolved, but that's exactly why he's making our list, because he can pack a punch if you're not careful. Once again, trying to work alongside Master Chief, Cortana, and Johnson, Guilty Spark got himself stuck in a corner he had to get hostile to break out of. As the tradition, this villain turned helper was of course still a villain, fatally wounding Johnson and attacking the Chief. You'll be handed a Spartan laser and told to kick some ass. Yet if you're playing anywhere higher than heroic, legendary even, you'll be lucky if Guilty Spark doesn't zap you dead in one. Then take into account you might be playing co-op, with 3 or 4 people jumping around a raised platform, distracting you and ruining your focus. You are trying to hit a flying tiny monitor, mind you, and the Spartan laser takes time to charge up. Taking that into account and the fact that you have to hit him 3 times can be quite a daunting task. Number 6. Sonic the Hedgehog 2, Drill Eggman. Speaking of side-scrollers, Sonic the Hedgehog's nemesis, Dr. Eggman, is no stranger to waddling back and forth left to right. In fact, his assorted gadgets and gizmo used against Sonic span about as far back as Mario himself. The Drill Eggman was showcased in Sonic the Hedgehog 2 and was the first boss Sonic faced. The game seemingly starts off with a simple boss, showcasing a basic attack pattern of driving left to right. When it comes down to it though, controlling Sonic in a high-pressure situation is no easy task. Drill Eggman will speed left to right in an attempt to run Sonic down. Jumping over or onto the car is the only option, but the issue can be driving off the screen. Say he knocks you over, rings everywhere, then leaves the arena. Now you're left scrambling for your lifeblood, scattered all across the floor, grabbing what you can before he comes back. 8 hit seems like a lifetime if you just can't get that timing down. Number 5, Super Mario 64, Big Bob-Omb. The first boss in the game of the Mario's first step into a 3D world. He's big, fancy, and almost completely docile. Many actually wonder if Big Bob-Omb, also known as King Bob-Omb, has any attacks at all. He'll saunter towards Mario, attempting to jump on him and push him off the cliff. That's right, this boss battle takes place on a summit, and that is the only excuse that we will allow for death against such a pushover for a boss. No, really, he's literally a pushover. Backflip onto his head, pick him up, and throw him down. 3 times, and he's out. Boom. Gone. The Power Star is all yours. This is where the idea of a learning boss comes into play. The fight with Big Bob-Omb teaches the player how they'll later be dispatching Bowser. This time though, it's in a nice, safe controlled environment with a view. So watch those triple jumps and make sure your shoes are tied or you'll plummet straight off the edge. Number 4, Crash Bandicoot, PAPU PAPU. PAPU PAPU may look like a big softie with a predictable and limited moveset, but this boss takes the idea of Pyramid Head's fight and amplifies it. Now you're in a small arena with a big enemy who is far from slow. He's got 2 attacks, a slam of his stick sword thing and a 360 spin move that Crash has to try and dodge. He does in fact broadcast these moves quite obviously, and if you can dodge the first slam and get to his chair, you'll be safe. That's an if, though, because in the moment, dodging his slams and jumping his spins in such a small room can be enough to focus on. If you know what to do and played the original Crash, I'm sure you'll be fine, but not everyone has that luxury. For those who started with the Insane trilogy, he's actually got 2 extra hit points, making him that much tougher to nail. As with most bosses, movement is key. Mixing that in with Crash Bandicoot's finicky, twitchy nature though, you start to understand the problem. Number 3, Punch-Out, Glass Joe. Okay, this entry really has no redeeming qualities. Yes, he's slow. He also doesn't attack very often and does his best to stay defensive. His only worrying factor is the fact that he can, dependent on how you fight him, last quite a long time. So, did you fall asleep at the wheel or did you hand the controller over to Grandma? Because these are the only 2 answers we will accept for losing to Glass Joe. The French fighter, arrogant and annoying in his demeanor, is the first and one of the most famous fighters you'll encounter in the many iterations of Punch-Out. As aforementioned, regardless of his glass jaw, he can take a few hits. He's fairly durable though, which gives you a chance to learn the ropes, get used to the game's movement, various modes of attack, how the controller feels, and proceed to knock Joe the hell out. If you lost to the man himself, you're in for some serious trouble when it comes to the later competitors, and frankly, you've done Little Mac a disservice. Number 2, Kirby, Wispy Woods. From a laser shooting monitor and fire-breathing dragon to a tree with bad breath, Wispy Woods is one of the most iconic Kirby bosses, and as a result, he has about as many iterations as Bowser himself. Sometimes he's stationary, sometimes he's a robot, sometimes there's 2 of him surrounding Kirby that split into pieces. In essence though, it's a giant tree that blows seed things at little Kirby. Little as in he can dodge these attacks ever so easily. Pair that with the fact that you're constantly bombarded with helpful pieces of fruit to munch on, spitting stars back at the tree, and Kirby is all set. Dependent on which version you play though, those breaths can pile up. The secret is to stay ducked and you're all good. If you get flustered however by trying to bob and weave through the gusts, frantically grasping for fruit, you'll soon feel the wrath of this cute little oak tree. Number 1, CONKER'S Bad Fur Day, The Great Mighty Pooh. The recently released Sekiro has proven that a boss can fling its own shit and still be intimidating. The Guardian Ape, infamous for its difficulty and 2 phases, was not the first boss to feature excrement though. The Great Mighty Pooh is just that, a large pile of it, in fact. As you can imagine, no one is admitting they died to stool, so better come back for some loo roll. No really, after the Great Mighty Pooh has finished serenading Conker, now how about some scat you little The agile squirrel will need to dodge the incoming poop and get to specific platforms. Once there, Conker throws rolls of toilet toilet paper into Mighty Pooh's mouth, freshening him up just a little bit. The boss fight is ridiculous, awkward, and weird all in one. Not only are you fighting fecal matter, it's also singing to you and threatening to stick you up his, well, you can guess where. Quick feet, well-timed shots, and not getting lost in the music is necessary to not succumb to this royally big turd. And that's our list. Are you willing to admit that you lost to any of these bosses? Leave us a comment down below and let us know. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe. But for now, I have been Kirsten from WhatCulture, and I will see you in the next video.